Hey, in this video, I'm going to show you how I made 9 grand from my very first sourced deal. It's the very first strategy that I used in property for the first year and a half, and a strategy that I still love to this day. Now, before I actually go into the crux of the deal itself, I wanted to set a wee scene here. It took me 6 months to secure my very first deal, from going through other property training courses and trying to actually find my way of working, understand the market, understand how to analyze deals, etc. Viewing after viewing, analysis after analysis, and so many doubts about the process. And with having no money myself to invest, no active bank or network of buyers, the odds are pretty well stacked against me, right? So, but I always had this plan that source a deal or two to get started, which would build up my funds, build up my confidence, and eventually start building my own portfolio thereafter. But there were many times within that 6 months that I thought about throwing in the towel. But there was always just this voice in my head and this gut feeling of just stick with it, go another day, go another week, keep the reps in, keep going. And in all honesty, that's where a lot of people can fall short, by listening to that voice in their head and kind of believe in it. And thank God I never, because just a couple of weeks later, when I had a pivotal moment of sitting on the edge of the bath, away to go in the shower at home, going, what the fuck am I doing? I am wasting a lot of time, a lot of effort, sacrificing a lot of things here, and feel like I'm just spinning my wheels, getting absolutely nowhere, burning a lot of energy. And thank God I never, because that first and second property was secured a couple of weeks later. But that's when the actual proper panic set in, because I've no cash to invest and buy this deal myself, and I don't actually know many other property investors to try and pass this deal to. So it was like, what can I do? So I'm going to share the full background around all the different strategies around how I first sourced the deal, and how I then sold the deal, found a buyer, and how that property actually then performed in the back end of it. So this was a property that was advertised on the open market on Rightmove, and it was through an agent that were clearly set up to operate within a niche for selling properties fast. For motivated sellers, they were looking for a quick sale. Now, to give you a bit of an idea, I spotted this because it was in need of some serious upgrade works internally. Structurally sound, no issue with windows, doors, etc., but was very much lived in and probably untouched since the 70s. Now, basically, booked in a viewing and went along to it, and the story here was I met the seller at the door, and turns out that it was their mother's house and they had actually passed away. Now, she basically opened the door and says, in you go, I'll see you when you're back out. And I thought, that's strange. Why aren't they coming in and walking around with me, answering any questions? So anyway, I'm in the property, looking around, thinking, no idea where to start pricing this refurb. But I took a stab at it, and basically at the end of it, I thought there was always this niggle on, why have they not come in? Why have she not come in with me to this viewing? So anyway, went back outside, spoke to the lady, and I said, look, out of curiosity, why didn't you come in with me? I'm just curious about that. And she goes, well, it was my mum's property, and we were brought up here, and it's very emotional for me to go in there. Just it brings back a lot of good and bad memories, and yeah, I'd rather just not kind of see the decorations, etc. that's in there. So I thought, cool, understand. But also at the same time in my head, I'm thinking, well, there's definitely an opportunity for a deal to be done there. So overall, the viewing went well. I ended up booking in a second viewing because I was unsure of how to price up a refurb, and basically got a build team in to give me a price there and then with a clear scope of works on what we could do, and yeah, get more confident in my own due diligence when it came to the refurb costs. So that was fine. Basically, the next stage was, let's go and put an offer in. So through the agent directly, rather than direct to the seller, I went with an offer of, I think it was £65,000, right? So bearing in mind, this was back in 2018, the home report, when it was put up for sale and advertised on Rightmove in June 2018, was £110,000. I put in an offer of £65,000, a very cheeky offer, but this place did need a lot of work. It was clearly inherited, so it was ticking a lot of boxes for a deal to be done. Now, I'd actually, through negotiations, been able to secure it in July of 2018 for £71,500. It was only on the market for a month. That's equivalent of a 35% discount. Now the refurb, just to give you a wee bit more in the numbers, was £30,000 all in. And basically for me, I had done my numbers on reselling it for £135,000 because it was ideal for a flip project, which would have meant a projected profit of £25,000 for the investor or the buyer on the back end of it based on a buy to fit project. So to give you a wee bit of insight, when I go back to the panic piece, so I'd secured this deal, thought it was a cracking deal, but shit, I don't have anyone to source this deal to. Now at the time, back in 2018, I can remember clearly three Facebook, property specific Facebook pages. Basically done some high level numbers and posted them with some photographs in those 3 pages. And thankfully, after a couple of different posts over the course of a week, I got a nibble from a guy from Edinburgh who's like, yeah, I'd be interested to hear more about the property. Can you give me more details? Sent over more details, sent him photographs, home reports, etc., which we had. And he was like, yeah, I'm pretty keen on this deal with a wee bit of back and forward, but I want to view it. Now, bearing in mind he's from Edinburgh, I'd already been and viewed the property twice. I thought, oh, shit, okay, yeah, let's just do it because I need this deal more than anything after spinning wheels so much for the last 6 months. I was jumping hurdle after hurdle and all through different hoops to get this deal over the line. Anyway, guy came up, was happy, met with the build team on site as well at the viewing, and yeah, basically, thumbs up. Let's go, let's proceed with it. So how did we actually make money from this deal? So firstly, we charged a sourcing fee of £3,000, which was a going rate back then. Now, as I said earlier, the buyer was from Edinburgh, so he wanted the refurbishment to be project managed. So we agreed, although having no experience around this again, we agreed that we would project manage this for a 10% fee of the total refurb pot. So that was a 30k refurb, which meant that was a further £3,000 in project management fees. Now, I won't go into the details around how we actually managed that, but basically because there was a refurb team in place already, I leaned very heavy on the joiner involved with that to, yeah, basically keep me right in terms of learning on the job when I needed to order certain materials and also, yeah, be involved, popping in every second day, just making sure things were tucking along and ultimately learning a hell of a lot on the job as well while getting paid £3,000 for it. It was a bloody good experience. And another final creative thing that we had agreed with the buyer and the investor here who was going to be selling this property on was, it was almost like a performance clause based on how the performance of the project went. So we agreed that if the property came back valued higher than we expected and sold for more than we would, basically than we projected, we would get an additional performance bonus from that. So basically, that meant when it was finished, refurb was done, we got a home report carried out. Now that home report came back at £140,000, so that was £5,000 more than we projected at, selling the deal based on £135,000 end value. We actually had accepted an offer on it, or the buyer, our client here, had accepted an offer for £141,350. I'll drop a wee screenshot in the video here from Rightmove sold data so you can see that back then. Meaning that we actually earned a further £3,000 in a performance bonus, if you like, which totals £3,000 for the sourcing fee, £3,000 for the project management fee of the refurb, and a further £3,000 in the back end from the sale proceeds because we exceeded the performance that we'd sold the deal at. So not too bad for a property that we didn't even buy. No risk involved when it comes to finances going into it. Learned a hell of a lot through the process, which then opened up a ton of opportunities for us in the back end of it, not just with confidence, but clarity, contacts in the marketplace, and certainty around the whole process and how it works. And that's the beauty of deal sourcing. When you can find cracking deals, you will find a buyer for it. It's just sometimes not very clear for you when you're starting out in terms of where these buyers are, but that's something that you will definitely build along the way through your building up of your business. So if you're thinking of deal sourcing, and that could just be the ticket for you, in the last 3 months, I've launched our new deal sourcing mastery course, and the feedback we've had from it has been insane, with the quickest deal being done just 2 weeks after completing the modules. So If you want to find out more about how deal sourcing works, how the different bolt-on monetizations can work as well for you, get me over on Instagram at James Duke Property and drop me a message and I'll share some more insights. There's going to be a ton of more videos coming with different strategies, different systems, different stories around all things property and business. So subscribe and keep your eye out for the next video.